Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a brief video answering a question that I get sometimes, which is, are Chibsons and replica guitars worth it? And in my opinion, it's kind of subjective because it depends on why you're buying the guitar in the first place. If you are familiar with my channel, over the years I have purchased several Chibsons and replica guitars. I've done videos on unboxings and upgrades. So this video is just my opinion based on my experience over the years. So this is my current Chibson and replica collection. Most of these have upgrades and I've done videos on that. You may have seen them. And I will discuss each guitar briefly individually, but just to be clear, this is not a review video. So the first guitar here is one of the first replicas ever purchased. It's an ESP MX250 replica. The quality of this guitar is kind of so-so. Kind of hard to explain. It kind of feels cheap overall. I believe the truss rod is actually loose inside of the neck, and the frets needed a lot of work. I believe I eventually upgraded the pickups, the tuners, and I think I have a better volume pot installed. I'll be honest, it's become a bit of a wall hanger. The second guitar here is my most recent purchase. It's an Ibanez Gem 777 replica. It's probably the coolest looking replica I've purchased to date, especially the inlays. They look really cool. The hardware works fine and the pickups sound decent, so I'll probably keep this one stock for now. The only odd thing about this guitar is that the body shape is a bit off compared to real Gems. The third guitar here is my John Petrucci Ibanez replica. The stock neck that came on this guitar was really big and uncomfortable to play, so I replaced it with a neck from eBay, which was an Ibanez replica neck. The headstock logo is also from eBay. I will also be replacing the stock pickups. And the fourth guitar on this side is an Ernie Ball Music Man replica. The upgrades include a Floyd Rose Special, I have two GFS pickups in there, and a better volume pot. Overall, it's a nice replica, although the neck does not feel like an Ernie Ball neck. It's a little bit bigger, I would say, although I think it is a 42mm nut, which is accurate. Okay, and over on this side I have my three Chibsons. This is my most recent Chibson. Obviously, it's the Zakk Wylde Les Paul replica, and the only thing I did to this guitar was I installed real EMG Zakk Wylde pickups. In this case, on AliExpress, I paid a little extra to get a real ebony fretboard, and I think it came out pretty good. It may be hard to tell on camera, but I believe this is a white guitar, and everything else is actually a decal. But from a distance, it looks great. The next Chibson here is a black Les Paul Custom, and as you can see here, I made some changes to make it look like the Les Paul that is famously played by John Sykes, who was one of my favorite guitar players. I installed GFS pickups, I have a brass nut, and I believe I upgraded the tuners. It came with a rosewood fretboard, so I stained it darker to make it look more like ebony. And as you can see here, a lot of these Chibsons have the wrong type of tailpiece adjustment, which is a flathead screw adjustment. That's not what real Gibsons have. And the last Chibson here is a Les Paul Standard replica that I purchased, and I modified it to make it look like Jimmy Page's #1 guitar. In this case, I believe I upgraded the tuners, the pickups, and the wiring harness. It looks like they got the bridge adjustment more accurate. One example of how Chibsons and replicas can be inaccurate can be shown here in the split diamond inlay on the headstocks. The one on the right side is way too small. So to answer the question from the beginning, in my opinion, are Chibsons and replicas worth it? It depends on why you're buying them. I want to be very clear, I do not believe that these guitars are replacements for the original thing. So for example, if you're just looking for a good Les Paul to play, in my opinion, just buy a used Gibson or even a new Epiphone. The new Epiphones are amazing. I have Gibsons, I have Epiphones, I have Ernie Ball Music Man, and I have Ibanez guitars, and I can tell you that they're all better guitars than the replicas. In my case, many of the Chibsons and replicas that I purchase are no longer available or super expensive on the used market. I consider these project guitars, and they look really cool, and you can get them playable, but there are some minimal skills that you're probably going to have to get them to that point. So the first thing is you're probably going to have to know how to adjust a truss rod, just like any other guitar, and you can look that up on YouTube. The second thing is you may have to get familiar with how to solder. In my opinion, many of these Chibsons and replicas come with very mediocre pickups, and I do believe that you're going to want to replace them. As far as the hardware, you may want to replace the nut. You may want to replace the tuners that have a better ratio, so that you're not constantly fighting the tuning. If it has a Floyd Rose, you may want to eventually consider upgrading the Floyd Rose for tuning stability. Just about all of these guitars have required some fretwork. They all come with varying degrees of sharp fret ends. Overall, I'd have to say that the Chibsons have been the most consistent over the years, meaning that out of the box, they're the most playable. The hardware has been the most consistent where they don't really technically need upgrading unless you want, again, slightly more accurate tuning. Although with my Chibsons, I have replaced all of the pickups. I think they're fun guitars for modifications that you may not want to do to a real guitar, and I think they're a good option as far as learning basic luthier skills because of their relative low cost. I believe all of the replicas I have been under $300 shipped, and I upgraded them with parts that I either had laying around or I ordered from like Guitar Fetish, which is a relatively affordable way to do that. So I hope this video was helpful if you're considering buying a Chibson or another replica guitar. Again, it's very subjective, and this is just my opinion based on my experience over the years. And I recommend you look at other people's videos because that's how I learned about the subject as well. Although I will continue to do gear reviews, this is probably going to be my last video on Chibsons or replica guitars. So I hope you enjoyed it. I thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my channel, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.